Hi, this is Kara from the Special Needs Mom podcast.
And this is Angela from Especially Organized, Sensible Solutions for Special Needs Moms.
We have this heart for special needs moms. And so we thought, you know what, let's combine forces. And we have come up with what we're calling the Purge Party. And you can pretty much guess what it is. It's a party where we're going to come together and we're going to purge or, in general, accomplish a goal, a small goal together. So we have set this for January 27th, starting at 8 o'clock for my Pacific Coast people.
Which means 11 o'clock for all of you on the East Coast. So this is an opportunity. If you have something on your to-do list that has just been stuck there and you are wanting to move it up on the list, you're wanting to tackle, maybe it's a space or an area of your home or a category in your home that has just needed a little time and attention. This is your opportunity for you to be online with us while you work and have access for us to help you answer your questions, help guide you, and just serve you for those 2 hours.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you can tell like what we've designed is just this very high level of support for that project that you just haven't been able to tackle on your own. The thing that we are envisioning is that you get to leave this purge party feeling so accomplished because you did the thing. You started the year off getting that thing done that you were stuck on last year. And so it's a momentum builder, if you will. You can go ahead and sign up. We have a link ready for you. And we are offering this for $40 for the whole experience.
Absolutely. And we hope you'll join us. I think it's going to be really fun. It's going to be a great group of moms of special needs kids. So we all get each other. We all have an understanding of what it's like to have something on our to-do list, but just we haven't been able to tackle it yet. So I hope that you will join us. We're super excited to bring this to you, and we are thrilled to work with you.
All right. We'll see you all there. Hi, I'm Kara Riska, life coach, wife, and the mother of 4 incredible and unique kids. It wasn't all that long ago that my son received a diagnosis that had my world come crashing down. I completely lacked the ability to see past the circumstances, which felt impossible, and the dreams I once had for my life and family felt destroyed. Fast forward past many years of surviving and not at all thriving, and you'll see a mom who trusts that she can handle anything that comes her way and has access to the power and grace that once felt so completely lacking. I started the Special Needs Mom podcast to create connection and community with moms who find themselves up against what feels impossible. My intention is to spark the flare of possibility in your own life and rekindle the dreams that you hold impossible now. This isn't a podcast about your special needs child. This is a podcast about you. If you're a mom who feels anxious, alone, or stuck, then you are in the right place. Welcome. Well, hello, and welcome back to the Special Needs Mom podcast. I feel like it's been a very long time because I had recorded a bunch of episodes, not a bunch, before I took a break for spring break. And now I am back in the saddle, back home from spring break. And so I don't know, it just feels like I've been away for a while. And so I feel like we're coming together again, and it's great to be with you again. Today's episode is going to be short and simple, and it's going to be more like sitting down with your girlfriend and catching up a little bit. And I want to tell you, or really talk about, vacation as a special needs mom. As I mentioned before, my family and I, the family unit, my 4 kids, my husband and I, took a vacation up the coast of California. So we stopped and did 2 nights in a campground called San Mateo, which is just north of Camp Pendleton and in San Clemente, and beautiful. And then we drove up the coast even more to Morro Bay, which is on the central coast and also quite close to where my husband and I went to college. So we have a lot of happy memories there, and it's just absolutely stunning. So that's where we went. Most people, when we tell them that we tent camped the whole time, are like, "You what?" Yeah, we did that. And as my husband and I were debriefing, we got home on Saturday. And then on Sunday morning, he was we were kind of debriefing and being like, and he said, this was funny. He's like, that was semi-traumatic. Not to minimize actual trauma, but I'm going to tell you about a little bit, kind of just my thoughts and like things that came up for us along the vacation. I want to do kind of a little debrief and tell you some funny stories about the time that we had as a family. And I don't know what I'm going to do as the final name of this episode, but as I was brainstorming, I was going to call it Hives, Diarrhea, and Fights. Or maybe Hives, Diarrhea, and Traffic. I guess what I want to say is, or the realization I had when I was waking up one morning, not feeling very rested, it hit me. Because I think, well, okay, back up a second. I was really excited to have a week off and to kind of just be away from our normal routine and to change things up a little bit. And, you know, like you guys get it. Vacation's exciting. Even though I love my life, I was excited to kind of have the kids off of school and all the things. And maybe midweek, I woke up and I immediately thought, oh, the reason I don't feel rested, or the reason this still feels hard, is because I brought the most challenging and sometimes agitating and most energy consuming part of my life with me. I think all moms can relate to that. Like having kids on vacation is not always easy. But I think after I tell you a few things that had happened, I think you'll obviously get it as special needs moms. Just recognizing that, oh, like we bring all the challenges with us. We bring all the medications with us. We bring all the unexpected potential things that can happen with us. We bring all the parts of being a special needs mom with us. Maybe mine is dealing with school, but I can't honestly say that made it much better. So one of the first challenges that we had, the first couple nights we did, was a group camping setting. A friend was kind of coordinated several different families camping together. I will say that I decided I don't like group camping. And the reason is, I think I was really excited about it. I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be so much fun. I get to see some friends. I get to visit. I get to camp. I like all these things. This is going to be amazing. But I think I've mentioned it in episodes before that I tend to be more of a, like, I like togetherness. I like people to be together. I like to kind of have tabs on what's going on. I guess like if I was any type of dog, I would be one of those dogs that's like herding the cattle or sheep. It's just part of my personality. And I like people to feel like they belong, hence the Special Needs Mom podcast. So, you know, since we have 4 kids, I have a 3-year-old, and then my other typical children are 9 and 13. So they kind of just go off and do their thing. And then I have my Levi, who really likes this environment because he's a very social guy. And so he likes to go around and visit everybody. But navigating, kind of coaching him in these circumstances is something I'm still figuring out. He doesn't necessarily pick up on all the social cues. So just things like where, you know, there'll be a group of adults talking and having an adult conversation, and then he'll join and then kind of, not take over, but kind of he'll demand attention from one of those adults. And most of the time people are accommodating and quite sweet, but there's also an insecurity that it brings out in me because I'm thinking that, okay, they probably want to be hanging out with the adults, not talking with this child that's asking questions about the chair and about their hair and about their outfits and that kind of thing. So that's part of it. And so it's like, but then asking Levi to do other things doesn't usually go very well. So it just presents this now more challenging situation that as he's grown bigger and more capable, but also less flexible, that it's just opened up a challenge that we as parents haven't kind of found our equilibrium. So I believe that I can let go of what other people think about it. They, you know, let them be their own adult. And like, if they need some space, they can do that. And letting Levi be who he is. And I think there's a lot of opportunity for growth, but I am where I'm at right now. And so it brought up a lot of uncomfortable feelings. And I guess what I missed is actually having those sit down adult conversations myself, feeling like I left the trip and I didn't really get to really talk to very many people because of all the challenges that we had. So that was the first little leg. So first decision is I don't think I like group camping anymore. So I might try it again. I probably will because it's just the way I roll. Kind of persistent. So I'll probably try it again. But I think I learned a lot of how to change my expectations. The other thing that I recognized during kind of, again, the middle of the trip is that it seems like my husband and I kind of have plowed forward in a typical, as if we had all typical children. What I noticed is that the trip that we had planned didn't really work in some ways because of the child that we have. I mean, obviously it worked. We did it. And there was a lot of good parts, but I recognized we might need to be making more accommodations and making decisions differently because of the child that we have. I guess maybe it's more apparent now. I don't know why it's different now, but because I feel like years ago we could have easily done this, but I actually can look back and recognize, okay, Levi's actually gotten sick every time we go camping. It just might not be a successful kind of trip for him. And so I think the realization I had was okay, you probably need to accept your reality and recognize that you can't just stick your head in the sand and plow forward in this way. I mean, you could, but I think it skips over some important details about what it looks like to support all of our family. As I mentioned earlier when I was joking about the title Hives, Diarrhea, and a lot of fights. So early in the trip, Levi started getting hives. And shout out to Robin Cortez, who I consulted with on my pharmaceutical needs or his. And so it seems like he had some sort of allergic reaction, but he was very uncomfortable and very itchy. And of course, then my stress response of oh my gosh, what's happening to Levi is getting triggered. I'd say I was 50% in, oh, he's fine. We'll deal with this. And then, it's very easy to go real extreme, real fast for me and be oh my gosh, where's the nearest hospital? We need to know where it's at in case we have to take him. And I say pretty neutral on it, but those thoughts come up. Or for me, the thoughts that come into my head is in the morning, I literally want to make sure he's breathing because I'm what if something's not okay? And I tell myself no, he's very likely breathing. You don't necessarily have to worry about that, but those thoughts do cross my mind. So he had these hives, and so we're treating for that. And then a couple days later, he ended up getting diarrhea. And because of his adrenal insufficiency, diarrhea is actually very serious for him. So now we're dealing with this. And so we're managing his medication in a way that will support him with his diarrhea. And so again, we were kind of just operating in a way oh, it's fine. And I don't think I realized how bad it was getting until at 4:00 in the morning, I hear outside my tent, Mom, I gotta go poop. Sorry, this is kind of a graphic episode, but so of course I help him and get all situated and kind of clean things up a little bit. And so that is part of our reality, that we have a child that has these situations, and that you can see how this may not fit well in with the idea of sleeping out in a tent for 8 nights. You guys are probably yeah, Kara, we could have told you that, but I don't know, there's something romantic about the idea of sleeping in a tent, and I have such fond memories of doing it. And I think maybe that idea, the concept, needs to be retired. So the other thing is finding activities that fit everybody's needs. So there's so many physical activities where if you're not with somebody that's completely able-bodied, It just doesn't work. And actually, I want to acknowledge my son. He did a really, really good job. But it presents challenges when trying to be together in a group. It just presents challenges. Actually, I don't know if you guys remember, but Jessica Pate, one of the former guests, she mentioned that she vacations without her special needs son. And her son has much different situations than we do. That probably would not be our choice. But recognizing for me, like, oh, like if I want to come back rested from vacation, that probably means, one, just going away with my husband. And it also probably means doing something very different than we did. So I think I'm just kind of taking all this and learning from what did not work. One thing that did work is we had a friend come up at the end of the week, and they actually ended up staying in an Airbnb. And they came over on Saturday morning to actually take the kids while we packed up our camp. It was so sweet. And Levi was having a lot of behavioral issues at that time. It was really funny because they had gone to camp, and we had, like, Dan and I are just like at the end. And in our minds, like, we have to camp, like pack up this whole tent and then drive 5 hours home and get through LA and all the things. And so, like, I don't know that we were living our best life at that moment. There was a pot that Levi had thrown earlier in the morning. It had been full of water. And so, like, we just set it back on the stove. And so it was like covered in mud. And so it was just funny how, like, everybody in the family that had come over, they're like, what happened to the pot? And we just look at them and laugh. They're like, oh, okay. And it was just, I guess it was a little bit funny. And so I was very much reluctant. They were going to take Levi, and they were actually going to go play on some Doom. So both for the physical component of it, but also for the protecting them from the behavioral component, I was very hesitant. And I was like 90% like, no, he's not going to go. But they were actually a little bit insistent. They're like, no, like, we've got it. And actually, she even said, you have no idea how many things my husband and I broke when we were little. So I kind of, like, she talked me into it. And she had a conversation with Levi. And the conversation with Levi that she had really touched me. And actually, it's bringing up a lot of emotion. I just felt so grateful for a friend that knows me and knows him. And the way that she talked to him, it wasn't the typical, like, okay, if you be good, we'll take you. It was more like, we got you. Levi, do you trust me? Like, do you want to come? Like, because if you want to come, I'll walk with you. We'll be together. We got you. And he did want to go, and he went. And they said they had a great time. And of course, he was angelic, which I'm so glad, both for Levi having the experience, but also for everybody around him. And I'm going to say that was probably one of the highlights of the trip, is the concept of being known in that way and having people that know and hold us like that. So, diarrhea and all, that was our trip. I actually haven't gotten back on social media at all. I took a complete hiatus, and I will post some pictures when this episode comes out. And hopefully, I maybe won't promise to do that. I don't know if I'm going to get back on that. But I'm going to wrap this up. Like I said, I'm going to keep it short. It was a little bit just rambling of my thoughts on vacation. And so I hope that you relate to it. I hope that it has you question your own kind of defaults. Like, I'm looking at my defaults of how we do things and recognizing I might need to shake things up a little bit. I might need to reinvent how some things go. It's helpful looking back and doing some kind of evaluation on this trip and saying, really, what worked, what didn't work, and what will I do differently? It's like the simplest form of evaluation, and really allows myself to give my own feedback so that we can give things another go. I cannot wait to see you next week. And if you wouldn't mind taking a quick second to do a review or rate on the podcast, it helps other people find it. So I would be profoundly grateful. Thanks, you guys. See you next week. Oh, hey there, moms. Before we totally wrap up this episode, I wanted to wrap up letting you know about an offer that I have going on right now. I know that each of you are coming with totally unique circumstances. For some of you, it's managing the unending physical and managing the medical needs of your child. And for others of you, it's managing the behavioral challenge, especially magnified by distance learning right now. I know that this can leave you feeling so alone and stuck, gosh, and so frustrated and even hopeless. I know some of you that I talk to are really starting to deal with some resentment because it feels like the challenges that your child are bringing you, I feel like it's kind of in conflict with you actually having a life that you love. And I know it can feel impossible to actually find peace and enjoyment in your life with all of these challenges. I know in my early years, this is how it felt for me as a special needs mom. And for this reason, I actually have created a special offer for my podcast listeners. It's the Path to Peace process that I have a one-on-one consultation where I walk you through this process and really just get a chance to teach you some of the concepts that will open your eyes to the possibility that is in your own life. I know that if I had this available to me in my earlier years, that I would be running and not walking to sign up. All you need to do to sign up is to go to the show notes of this episode. There'll be a link and you'll just send me a quick note and we'll find a time to meet together. I can't wait to hear from you. One more thing before we officially wrap up this show. Sometimes when I'm listening to podcasts, I have the experience of wanting more. I'm listening at the very end thinking, I sure wish that episode didn't end. I invite you, if you feel in any way the same way, I invite you to the Special Needs Mom podcast community, which is a free group that I host on Facebook, where we as a community of fellow moms who listen to this podcast and are experiencing life in similar shoes, get to talk to one another, get to share stories, get to actually interact. I hope you'll consider joining. See you over there.